But by being part whole, we are all orchestrating what one wants. You see, because if we were separate parts, it would be different. Then there would be an orchestrator, but we are parts whole.
Yeah.
But notice that our body, even our body, is built the same way. It's built with parts whole. Let me explain. Every cell of my body has the genome of the egg that built the entire organism. So every part of my body, every cell, I have about 50 trillion. So your 51 trillion cells, each one of them has the genome that describes the entire organism. Not itself, everything, the whole thing is a part whole. The potential knowledge of the whole. That's why a cell later on in life can express aspects of itself that were not present at its birth. That's why there is, epigenetics. 30 years ago, it was impossible, could not exist. And now, of course, people are beginning to accept that epigenetics exists. Epigenetics is that, a cell is not determined at birth in what it's going to be able to express. It can express new things that were not present at birth. So, the entire understanding of who we are is appended. And there are people that tell you, materialists that tell you that the body is just an algorithm. Biology is just like a computer. What the hell? No, a computer is made of transistors. There are not 50 trillions yet. There will be 50 trillion. So what's the big deal? A transistor is a switch, on, off. That's all. What does a switch know about the whole? The whole computer and the software that runs in the computer? Nothing. This goes beyond that because I'm just describing a body as a physical structure in space and time, comparing to another physical structure in space and time, which is a computer, which is a purely classical system. The body is quantum and classical. The consciousness, the feelings are not in the body. They are in this field, this deeper field. They are not in the body. We project them in the body. They are not in the body. We are not. Who we are not the body. We don't exist in space and time. We exist in this deeper reality. You see, that's why we are so indoctrinated on one end and so also hypnotized into believing that we are the body, that we always fall into this trap of believing that we are the body. Yeah, we have a soul, but then when we think about ourselves, we think about the body. No, the body is just a structure that then perishes. If we were the body, then scientism would be right to say that when the body dies, it's the end of ourselves, right? If consciousness is a property of a functioning brain, when the brain doesn't function, we shouldn't exist anymore. And of course, that's what I believe when I believe in this scientism worldview, which did not take into account what quantum physics was saying. The point is that I'm trying to make is that quantum physicists are saying something that then we never reflect in our worldview. Just think about love. What is love bringing to you? I mean, beyond the feeling itself, there is a meaning behind that. The qualia is one thing, right? What it feels like. That's the qualia.
Yeah.
But then the qualia are simply the entry point into the inner sanctum, which is, this field that can know, that has properties that are infinitely powerful properties to understand. Understand means to get the meaning of what? Of what you perceive, which is qualia. So the meaning is the essence of what you know. And it's also what we want to convey when we use symbols. I don't describe my qualia, I describe the meaning of qualia. When I say, I love you, am I describing what I feel? I cannot describe what I feel. So I describe, the essence that I call love, that's the meaning that this feelings has for me. But it goes deeper because love is a word. Love is a symbol, is a word. But love to you if you really go into it, it has dimensions that are unfathomable. It has depths that you cannot fathom. So, it is, cannot be described in word. Okay? Years ago, I said, that's what the Tao is talking about. The Tao, it starts by saying the
Tao that
the Tao that you can say is not the eternal Tao.
Yeah.
Okay? What is he saying? He's saying exactly what quantum physics is saying. That you cannot copy, not even copy, a quantum state. The quantum state, which is the representation of qualia, is what you feel. And it can only be known from the inside. It can never be told from the outside. What you can say about it are only symbolic expressions of what you feel. But the symbolic expression of what you feel fall very short of what you feel. There is a theorem in quantum physics, it's called Olivo's theorem. Olivo's theorem said that when you have a quantum state, when you measure the quantum state, you can only get one bit of information, classical bit, per quantum bit. The quantum bits that describe the states are entangled, which is, a crazy property of quantum physics, meaning properties in common that cannot be represented in space and time. They require these n-dimensional spaces. Not only that, but each quantum bit is an infinity of possibilities, representable as a point on the surface of a sphere. So every point on the surface of a sphere, meaning a direction in space, is one of the possible states of the quantum bit. When you make a measurement of this quantum state, you set a direction, and if you set in this direction and you measure, you will find 1 or 0, which is the opposite direction. You can only find 0 or 1, no matter which way you measure it. That's a property which is incomprehensible because classical physics is not these properties. When you measure a quantum system, you disturb it, and you measure something that was not the state that it was. So the observer affects what is observed. And of course, then what is observed affects the observer by giving some information. So all of a sudden, you no longer have the situation in classical physics where the observer is separate from what is observed.
You're a participant.
And you are a participant. You are both observer, observe, and actor. You're all three. You're an agent, all three. Because we take turns, like we're taking turns now. Now, when I speak, you observe me, and when you speak, I observe you. Okay, but also my speaking affects you, but also affects me, and vice versa. So we affect each other in a way that classical systems don't affect each other at all. In classical physics, you had to make a separation between the observed and the observer. And that separation is being kept in the mind of even most physicists to this day. So they don't think of they explain what's going on in ways, but they're not clear about the role of the observer in quantum physics, because it's incomprehensible in the conception of reality that exists, which is reality is really what we can measure in space and time. So Don Hoffman talks about space and time doesn't exist. Okay, in that sense, okay, it is right, but in reality, there is, we have to explain why we have a perception of space and time and where does it come from, and so you have to think in terms of a deeper reality, and space and time are emergent properties of this deeper reality, as the other way around. Consciousness and free will are supposed to be actually free will. Typically in scientism doesn't exist, but in consciousness and consciousness emerges from space and time and objects that don't have any of that. Okay, but it is the other way around. Space and time and matters and energy emerge from this deeper reality, and so they must be explained in terms of knowing. Knowing is deeper than space, time, matter, and energy.